Chapter 11 just basically addresses the point in time where we've worked out this program and now we're focused on recruiting participants. Remember, you could design the most effective and efficient program that's ever been developed, but if you don't have participants, then the program's really not going to be able to accomplish much in terms of behavior change and health status change, any meaningful change anyway. So chapter 11 kind of gets into some commercial marketing concepts where you have a manufacturer with a product and their whole entire business model, their measure of success is how much of that product they can sell. So we're going to incorporate some of those concepts into social marketing, where our product is going to be our program, and by selling the product to our target population, what we're really trying to do is increase the number of participants that are attracted to our program. So like I was getting to, we're going to use consumer-based concepts. So our marketing decisions and considerations are centered around, the slide used priority population. We could also use our target population. But basically, we want to understand the wants, needs, desires, preferences of our target population, specific to our target population, and we're going to use that specificity to develop our marketing plan. So what is our marketing plan? Okay, it's the process for creating a message, communicating that message with our target population. The slide says delivering value to customers. So basically, what are the benefits of participating in this program? And with consumers, it's on financial profit. For us, it's more along the lines of, are we effective at getting our target population to make the changes that we want them to make? And when we start to talk about selling health promotion programs to a target population, we call that social marketing. Okay, so a table 11.1 from your book gets into the 4 P's of social marketing, and it's no surprise these are the 4 P's of commercial marketing. So the P's are product, price, place, promotion. So these are things you need to consider as you're putting together your marketing plan. Product, so you have augmented products, and these are tangible items. So things that people can actually hold, they take up physical space. Sometimes you entice people, participate in our program, receive a Fitbit or, something like that. And we really emphasize, the Fitbit, because that's something that people can stir up a desire or want for that particular augmented product. But we also have to think about, and especially with health promotion programs, our core products. And basically it comes down to, if you participate in this program, here are the benefits in terms of health status change, quality of life, attitude, whatever we kind of identify as the benefits. That's what the target population is considering. Okay, if I were to receive those benefits, right, is that worth the cost that I'm going to have to put forward in order to participate in this program? Which leads me to price. All right, so with consumers, it's a financial price. With most health promotion programs, there may be a nominal membership fee, and I use the word nominal because, again, you don't want the actual cost in terms of finances to be the determination point that the target population is really relying on. Because again, the health status may not be held in the same regard as financial status. So whenever there's a financial barrier, that may take precedent over any benefit they would receive from a change in health status or a step towards a change in health status. So you need to think about that in terms of what is your target population's view as what they're giving up in order to receive the benefit from participation. Place, okay, where these health motion programs are usually going to occupy a physical space, but now we've seen that there's a lot of virtual space that people are getting involved in. So you need to think about is place, is that reasonable for your target population? Is it too far away? Is it inaccessible? Those sorts of things. And then finally, the last P is promotion. How this is something students knew in my health promotion class. Always kind of relate the health promotion kind of term. They think of it as more of a marketing. I won't get into that, but here when we talk about promotion, it actually is addressing marketing. So your communication strategy. How are you going to communicate to your target population that, hey, here is a program that's relevant to you. Here are the benefits. Here is the place. Here is the price. That sort of thing. If you look at the examples, again, these are consumer based examples, but is how are you going to make your target population aware of your program and all the other benefits and things that come along with that? Okay, the market. So here it's your target population or your priority population, right? Who are they? What are their characteristics related to the product that you want them to buy into our health motion program? So you want to make decisions with regard to your social marketing, right? You want to make it specific to your target population. Okay, exchange. Okay, so this is what your target population sees. They have to exchange these resources in order to receive the program benefits. And that could be in terms of financial, right? There may be some costs associated. Do I need to, if it's a physical activity program, do I need to purchase active wear? Do I need to pay a membership? Those sorts of things. Or it could be non-financial, right? All one cost that will always be present is time, right? So in order for a person to participate, they're going to have to give up that amount of time. So that would be a non-financial. Items that can be marketed can be tangible or intangible. Again, I kind of address that. Is it something that a person can actually hold, the Fitbit example? Or is it more of a change in knowledge? Is it something that really doesn't lend itself to strict consumer marketing, but you got to think about what are the benefits of my program and how do I sell those benefits? Consumer orientation. Okay, this simply means that we're going to tailor all our program marketing decisions based on the wants and needs of our priority population, our target population. I mean that's whose interest concerns us the most. So that's kind of how we need to center our approach to, again, the wants and needs of the target population. Usually done during the formative research process. So remember, formative research, go back to chapter 3, typically done prior to or during implementation. But basically it's the process that identifies differences among subgroups, determines the wants and needs, and factors that influence behavior. So we want to have a general sense of who we're dealing with and what their characteristics are prior to developing our marketing approach. So again, here's a table from the book. So during this formative research, what are some of the things that we're trying to learn? So as it regards or relates to the behavior change, right? So why is this a problem in this target population, right? We have to understand why, because that's where the solutions come from. Needs, this could be perceived and actual needs. So actual needs, right, we do an empirical research and kind of identify, okay, here are the leading health issues that exist in this target population. But we also want to consider the precede proceed model, particularly phase one of the precede proceed, the social diagnoses, where we learn what the target population perceives the needs to be, and just be ready to or expect that there may not be a complete alignment between what the target population perceives their needs are with their actual needs. Perception is reality, and if people may believe things to be true that may or may not be supported by actual evidence, but you don't know if there's a disconnect or disparity until you actually go through and do the assessment. Competition, okay, what's that they're competing for our target population's resources, and how are we going to address that to show that, okay, well, our program would be the better spend for those resources than the competition. Okay, the product, right? We need to know what the products, the priority population needs in order to make these changes, and does our product align with that? The benefits, okay, in terms of marketing, how can we kind of make the benefits more apparent? We may have to kind of define or explain why health status change or behavior change is indeed a benefit. We may have to explain that to the target population, but we want to make sure that when they're weighing out cost versus benefits, they have a pretty good understanding of what those benefits are, so that they can make a better assessment. Barriers, right? Understanding real and perceived barriers that the target population feels that are preventing them from participating. A price, right? What are we asking the target population to exchange for the benefits? Place, right? Are we offering this in a location that's readily accessible? And then promotion. How are we getting the word out to our target population? All right, with competition. So during the formative research phase, so this is before we implement our program in most cases, right? We want to know what else exists in the lives of our target population that's competing for those resources we're asking the target population to exchange for participation in our program. And so say that you speak with a group of potential participants, and time is something that keeps coming up. Well, I have, life happens, and in order to navigate through life, right, we have to spend parts of our day dealing with those issues, right? So those are the time blocks that we're competing for. And we need to have an understanding of really what the target population feels that they're having to give up, so that we can create marketing materials to help show them that, well, maybe it's an easier exchange or more responsible exchange, that they give up this time for participation. Okay, segmentation. So here's where we take a larger group and we maybe split it up into subgroups. Now, the benefit to this is that smaller groups tend to have more specificity, and we can narrow our approach, our marketing approach, strictly based on those specific characteristics. Now, in exchange, you're creating a smaller group, which means that, okay, well, there's fewer people that are actually going to be exposed to this program. So you need to think about, if my segment that I've created is so small that really in the grand scheme of things, I'm not really affecting the lives of a significant number of people, right? So that's going to be, the efficiency of your program resources. You're not going to be as efficient when you work with a smaller group of people. But the trade-off is that, well, you may be more effective, right? A higher proportion of that smaller group may go through the behavior changes and see the benefits of the program. So you need to think about that and kind of weigh it, in terms of effectiveness and efficiency. Am I doing the right thing? I kind of addressed this, but when we segment, basically that's what we're doing. We're creating a more homogeneous group of individuals, and homogeneity, I'm using this to describe that each individual in the segment, right, aligns with other individuals through a series of shared characteristics, right? So the more shared characteristics, the more you can tailor your approach, and the hope is that your program is going to be more relevant through uh, those shared characteristics. Okay, so when you're deciding, how do I narrow down this group into segments, what are some things you can consider? Certainly geographic location, right? Because place is one of the 4 P's. So if we focus on a specific geographic location, say a zip code, a neighborhood, a town, something like that, well, it's probably going to result in an easier access to your program. Or it may be that maybe there's certain regions that we see the problem on a much larger scale than in other geographic regions. You know, I think you kind of get the drift there. Demographics, right? Are we dealing with things like gender? Do we want to make a female-only program? Maybe consider age, socioeconomic status, level of education, health literacy levels. Some characteristic that we're focusing on. The psychosocial, attitudes, beliefs, those types of things. Again, what characteristics are shared among this smaller group we're trying to create? Behavioral, right? Do they share the same behaviors or lack of behaviors? And typically what you're going to do is you're going to come up with a combination of these things. Again, you're trying to narrowly define your target population so that you can make a highly specified program and marketing materials. No right or wrong way at the beginning, right? In hindsight, you may say, wow, I made this too restrictive. We really didn't get enough people. But I mean, that's what experience is. Can be done a priori or a posteriori. So the difference between priori and posteriori basically is what's known at the time that you're making a decision. Priori just means it's basically these are known truths, right? I don't have to conduct the experiments or conduct the evaluation to learn something, right? It's something that's already known. If you look it up in a textbook or you Google it, it's going to say things like mathematics are priori. 2 plus 2 always equals 4, right? I don't have to conduct an experiment to figure that out. In terms of using this to assist you with segmentation, you may or may not be able to do that depending on what is known about certain characteristics. And typically what we see are a posteriori. We conduct an experiment or an evaluation, we learn something about the group, and then we take what we learned and we apply that to our segmentation strategy. Okay, so when you're considering segmentation, How do you go about this? All right, so in terms of measurable, right? So this is going to be a measurable characteristic that you're using to segment down. Maybe you're going to focus on a particular segment. I believe the book uses stages of change. So you may want to take a group of individuals, and depending on how ready they are to change, whether they're pre-contemplators, contemplators, they're in the preparation stage, whatever it is, you are assigning them to those different groups. Those become your segments. So you need to think about, um, is that reasonable to do that? But more importantly, do you have the wherewithal, or is it possible for you to assess what stage the individuals are in order to place them into the appropriate stage? For example, this could be determined by a single question, right? How ready are you to engage in a physical activity program? Right, and based on their response, you would assign them to one of the various stages of the trans-theoretical model. Okay, well, can you get answers to that question, right? Can you get the question out to your potential group and receive back the data that you can use to create those segments? If you can't, then I don't know how you would go about segmenting them. Okay, substantial. So, okay, say you successfully segmented your groups and you decide you want to focus on pre-contemplators. How many people from the larger group actually shows up in the pre-contemplation stage, right? In terms of effectiveness and efficiency, is it enough people where it makes the program worthwhile? Accessible. Okay, well, once you segment, is it possible for you to hold on one moment. Okay, I left off at accessible. So you want to make sure that you're not creating difficulties for yourself by narrowing down your population into a segment, right? The whole purpose of segmenting is to make things easier for you, but you don't want to create a segment, decide to go with that segment, and then look at accessibility as being, you don't want to introduce more barriers. Differentiable. Are segments different enough they will react differently to marketing strategy? If they're not differentiable, then it doesn't make sense to create the segment. And then actionable, right? So based on the specificity of the segment, can you alter or create your product, your program, in such a way that it's going to kind of really speak to that segment, really draw them in? Again, if it doesn't, then you need to go back and think about, well, am I really, is creating this segment is really necessary? Okay, so the 4 P's, kind of talked about this earlier, but product, price, place, promotion, right? So again, apply this to your social marketing approach and address each of these 4 areas, right? We refer to this as the marketing mix, and we borrow that term from commercial marketing. Okay, so the product, again, this is going to be your program in most cases. In some cases, you're going to have augmented products, right? So augmented products, those are your tangible products. Tangible simply means that a person can hold it, they can touch it, it exists in a physical space. Fitbit was the example I used. Core products, also referred to as bundle of benefits, these are the things that the changes in how the target population is going to benefit from those changes that result from your health promotion program. Price, you always have to consider this from the target population's perspective. What are they giving up? And sometimes it's easy to say, oh well, that's not a big ask. People are exchange a few hours of their time each week, but the chances to ultimately improve their health status, right? Who needs to think about that? Who needs to consider that? Well, you really need to step into the shoes of your target population and see things from their lens, through their lens, from their perspective, right? There's going to be perceived costs that are really going to influence their decision to participate or not. And if you don't understand what those perceptions are, it may impact you in a negative way. And then, these costs can be seen as barriers, right? We want to identify barriers and we want to eliminate barriers. We want to make the pathway to participation in our program as free and easy as possible. So when you're thinking about price, so who are the clients, who are the target population, right? You have to have that established. What is their ability to pay, right? First you have to define, what are the costs, what is the price, and are we creating something that's unobtainable, because it's just it costs too much. Are co-payers involved? So if we do have a financial contribution, right? Is there something in place to subsidize the cost to the target population? Or if we're talking about time, what about time away from work? We could extend this consideration to employers. Are employers giving pay time off to attend these types of things? Is the program under an insurance policy? Again, if there's a financial cost, right? Are we able to defer those costs to some extent? What is the mission of the planner's agency? You know, Perhaps cost reduction is something, or accessibility is something in our mission statement where we find a way to assist our target population with covering those costs. What are competitors charging? Again, just knowing the marketing, the market, and who you're up against, with who's competing for those consumer resources or target population resources. What is the demand for the program or product, right? If there's a high demand, then we may be able to justify some increased costs. Okay, place. Again, accessibility. So again, if you're delivering this program in person, all right, well, what location are you going to use? Is it easy accessible? Um, if you delivered a program to the Boca Raton or surrounding community, and you deliver this program at FAU, um, well, you see, like, okay, well, that's a centralized location. Um, However, I would say that parking may be a problem, right? Because we have paid parking at FAU, and if you haven't paid, you're probably going to get a ticket. How are we going to address that? So again, you want to make these places easily accessible, which leads to convenience. If you're working with a low socioeconomic status group that may or may not have transportation, is it along a bus route? Those sorts of things. Safety, right? You don't want a person to feel unsafe going to a location to participate in your health motion program. Time of day. People have different schedules, but you need to understand the schedules of your target population so that you're not asking them to make a decision as to what's going to be the priority during a particular time of day. Do I stay at work, or do I, take an extended lunch break, maybe without getting paid, to attend these programs? Or maybe you say, well, we'll offer the program at 6 p.m. Well, that's dinner time for a lot of people. You need to, again, you want to make every effort to make your program as accessible as possible. And then promotion. How are you getting the word out about this program, right? So if we look at the purpose of putting this information out there, right? One, increase product awareness. Make people aware that there's a program that exists. I do a project in my Perspectives in Health course where students go and look within their community for I give them a list of services. What do you have available from? And one of the most common comments I receive after the students complete the project is that they're surprised to learn about these particular services having been available in the communities they've lived in, their whole lives. So there's a lot of things that are out there that probably aren't utilized simply because people aren't aware of them, right? So, you need to think about in terms of promotion. How do you make people aware that your program exists? You want to persuade. There has to be some type of persuasive message in there, right? Not only do you need to be aware that your program exists, but you need to persuade them that, hey, this is something I should start considering maybe participating in. Reinforce. Uh, you know, the more times you make people aware of a program, the more likely they are to kind of remember the program is available. They may become aware at a time where they're just not ready to even think about making a decision to participate in the program. But later on, things may change, and part of that change, maybe they forget that the program is available. So, what are you doing to constantly increase your the awareness of your program? And then differentiate. Okay, well, what if there's multiple programs out there and a person trying to decide, okay, well, which one do I give my time to, right? So you want to make efforts to really showcase and highlight the benefits of your program over other programs that may be available. Okay, so how are you going to do these things? Raise awareness, convey this information. Well, there's advertising. Advertising, you would communicate to a much larger group that contains individuals that would be part of your target population. So it's more like casting a broad net. Some people are going to hear the message that it may or may not pertain to them, right? So again, effectiveness and efficiency are things you want to consider with all of these things. Direct marketing is where you create a tailored communication channel that's more likely to be received just by members of your target population. Personal selling would be more face-to-face or one-on-one type of an approach. Sales promotions. Here you're using incentives, again, to try to get people's attention, get them to participate. Public relations. You may be working with a group to help get the word out. Basically, it's the publicity. Maybe a newspaper does an article about your program. Again, not really a part of your advertising campaign, but it can be effective at getting the word out. I always come across articles, and they're highlighting or showcasing, spotlighting a particular program in the community that I wasn't aware of that existed before. It may not pertain to me, but I obviously wasn't aware of their advertising campaign. So things to consider. All right, sorry about that. And I think we have digital communication left. So you need to think about, if you're going to use digital communication, well, what forms are you going to use? A website, social media, and it has to align with what your target population utilizes as well, right? Remember, you're trying to maximize the effectiveness of your marketing, and the way that you do that is by selecting communication channels that are direct access or have a high penetration rate with your target population. Okay, pre-testing. Pre-testing in general is always is a good idea. Basically it's like a pilot test. You get to try out some things. You get to learn some information that hopefully is going to enhance your effectiveness and efficiency once you get to the point where you're implementing your program. So 2 phases of pre-testing to be aware of. Okay, so one, you want to vet this idea that hey, this here's a product we developed or a program idea we've developed based on what we know to be the needs of the priority population. So it may be a good idea to bring in a collection of individuals that come from the target population, and basically just assess, you know, present your program to them, your program idea, and say, hey, how does this sound to you? Um, you may want to go through maybe some of your marketing materials where you're selling the product based on the benefits that they're going to receive. Right? You may ask them, you know, what benefits did you hear? What benefits resonated with you? Asking them, well, what barriers? Right? Remember, we're after actual barriers and perceived barriers. Right? So one way to see through the lens of your target population is to actually get responses, as from their perspective. What product features did they like? After you describe your program, right? What really appealed to them? What stood out? Um, on the flip side, okay, what didn't they like, or what are some things that kind of is off-putting? If you say, okay, well, here are the locations where we're going to offer the program, right? Do those locations seem accessible to your pilot group? The price in terms of whether it's financial or time or what else. Does that seem like a reasonable, or does it seem like a good value? Um, Again, they may be able to rattle off the benefits that you listed, but do they really see, maybe you say one of the benefits is to increase longevity of life. Is that something that they say, "Oh, well, you may say that, but we'll never know until I get to that point. I don't know if that's really a benefit that's real. I mean, at this point in time, um, do they see the health promotion program? Again, they're you've explained to them how this program is going to work. Do they kind of see the mechanism? And then phase two tests would be where you kind of go through your marketing plan, and does your target audience, do they think how likely they are to receive those messages based on the communication strategies that you've selected? So with pre-testing or pilot testing, right, you get feedback, and you're able to react to that feedback and make changes before you actually implement your program. So that's really a good thing. Um, but also keep in mind that it's also going to consume your program resources in terms of time and personnel to conduct this pre-testing or piloting. Um, so that may affect your decision to do so, right? You're working on a timeline, right? Maybe you don't have enough time to devote to doing these types of things, no matter what the benefits are, perceived benefits are of doing it. Common methods to do pre-testing, so you can have focus groups. Right? That's where you bring individuals in and kind of do that. The book goes into it may introduce bias. I think kind of what they're getting at is whenever you bring a group of individuals together, some are going to be more outspoken than others, and others may be more introverted, and maybe just kind of go with what they perceive the flow as being. With they have low or external locus of control issues, that sort of thing. So that's always um, consideration. And when you're asking for volunteers to participate in these focus groups, right, there's certain characteristics that individuals have that tend to be the ones that volunteer. So just recognize that the perspective you're getting may be kind of based on the people that are have come together for the focus group, and that's based on maybe certain characteristics, or how strongly they feel about certain issues, that sort of thing. Central location intercept interview adds a little bit more of a randomness to who's participating in this pre-testing, where you would go to locations where you believe there's going to be a high proportion of characteristics that make up your target population. For example, if you went to, a local mall, and you're just randomly stopping people and kind of asking them some questions about a potential program, that would be fine if, the characteristic that you're most after for your target population is, geographical, right? People tend to go to malls that are close by to them, right? But if you were looking, this is a program for breast cancer survivors, and you went to the mall, well, you got to think about what's the likelihood that the person I randomly choose is going to be a breast cancer survivor versus, someone that's never had breast cancer, right? I don't know if there's enough specificity there where you're going to get feedback from your priority population, right? Now, if you were to go to, say, Lynn Cancer Institute in Boca, right, in their breast cancer waiting room, right? Well, chances are you're probably going to have a higher proportion of individuals that you contact are going to meet that characteristic. All right, so who should complete pre-testing? Right, your priority population. They're the ones you're really developing this marketing approach for. Experts in the field for content validity, right? So maybe you've selected several evaluation instruments, right? You can put your panel of experts together and say, hey, are these instruments measuring what I think they're going to measure, based on in your opinion. Gatekeepers, right? So remember, gatekeepers are kind of conduits or liaisons to the target population. It allows you to access the target population. So you may want to bounce some ideas off your gatekeepers, because the gatekeepers say, look, I know these people, and I don't think they're going to go for that, right? So you may want to include those, or at least get their feedback if a gatekeeper is something that's critical to your ability to reach your target population. Okay, so table 11.3 in the book. I'm not going to read that to you, but again, these are things that if you're considering pre-testing, here are some of the things you need to consider. Continuous monitoring. This is something that should be part of every aspect of your evaluation approach. So what this means is during implementation of your program, you are collecting data, you're evaluating that data, and you're making program decisions for revision or changes or whatever based on those results. So in terms of your marketing, we can apply the same principles. So as we're going through, when we decide on marketing aspects, right, there's an expectation. That's how we make the decision that if we go this route, then it's going to produce these results. Well, as you're going through your implementation, if you're not seeing those results, or the efforts aren't trending towards those results, then you may want to stop and think about, do I need to make some changes in my marketing approach, to move closer to that desired outcome. So some of the things you may want to consider, acceptability, right? Is the messages, are they getting out there, and are they being received in a positive light? The communication channels I'm using, whether it's through digital marketing, whether it's through word of mouth, face to face, whatever, am I reaching the members of the target population, and to what extent? Product distribution sites are basically locations where you're implementing the program. How are they working out? Are they as convenient as we thought they were going to be? And basically, what's working, what's not working. If it's not working, then you don't want to continue dumping resources into something that's not producing the expected results. So those are places where you want to have some revision.